Now, from Atlanta News First, the issues that matter to you. This is On the Record.
Yes, you move on.
I'm answering my question. What have you done, sir? Nothing.
Highly anticipated testimony from Fulton County's top prosecutor now on the record. It was something. District Attorney Fani Willis finally comes face to face with the Senate committee that's been investigating her for over a year. I'm Doug Reardon.
And I'm Rick Fulbaum. State lawmakers say they want to hold Willis accountable for her conduct surrounding the historic indictment that she brought against President Donald Trump and more than a dozen of his allies. The president was accused of trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election here in Georgia by intimidating elected officials in the state, including in a now infamous phone call to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and in a separate call to the late House Speaker David Ralston. The New York Times obtained audio of that call just last week. In the recording from late 2020, the president asks Ralston to call a special legislative session to investigate the election, promising he'd be very popular if he did.
But you mean you wouldn't call, for the sake of transparency, a special session, or you won't let us go and verify signatures because they're corrupt? You could say for transparency and to uncover fraud, possible fraud. So who's going to stop you for that? You know, it's like
a federal judge, possibly.
It's just one of the many pieces of evidence Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis used to prop up her indictment of the president, but the case stalled after DA Willis's romantic relationship with the prosecutor she hired to investigate Trump came to light. Last month, the case was completely tossed out. The DA fought for a year and a half to skirt past subpoenas from a special Senate committee here in Georgia, but lawmakers insisted on questioning her about her office's investigation of the president, and Willis's fight continued when she entered the hearing room.
How would you define block billing?
Like somebody who didn't know what the hell they were talking about. You all want to intimidate people from doing the right thing, and you think that you're going to intimidate me. People came into my community and committed a crime, and I indicted them. And rest assured, if someone else comes in my community and commits a crime, I will indict them again.
And the contentious testimony lasted for about 4 hours last week. DA Willis answering questions about her office's financial and hiring practices. Her attorney, former Georgia Governor Roy Barnes, speculated that senators were using the hearing to get in the spotlight. As he noted, many of the lawmakers on the Republican-led panel are running for statewide office.
It's very apparent that all of what they're trying to do is raise money. You know, hit on Fani and send me $100. Because I'll hit on her again, and I can run for statewide office on some type of unsupported conspiracy theory.
And earlier in the day, Barnes called the hearing a witch hunt. Senators on the committee said the same of the now defunct election meddling case.
I think about my friends who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars defending themselves against these politically motivated charges, and that's the witch hunt. And we were today trying to get to the bottom of the witch hunt that went on against the president and the other Georgians and people from out of state that had to endure this prosecution.
Well, the Senate committee has no authority to discipline Willis. State senators who can write new laws told us that they may look into regulating the ability a district attorney has to impanel special purpose grand juries, which could then limit their ability to hand up indictments like the one brought against President Trump. Lawmakers may also consider creating new laws that make it easier for legislators to get documents from DA's offices. They also may look into regulating how prosecutors pay outside contractors.
And our panel joins us now to talk about this. Buzz Brockway is a former Republican state representative and vice president of public policy for the Georgia Center for Opportunity, also Democratic policy advocate and former candidate for Georgia State Senate. Deborah Shigley, thank you for joining us. You guys just told us you watched some of this. So, Buzz, I'll start with you. You know, they've been fighting for this, that Republican-led Senate panel, for a long time, over a year and a half. Did this live up to expectations once they finally got Fani Willis to sit down?
I think they put on quite a show. It was high drama. I don't know that much of substance came out of this. I think it helps probably both sides, probably helps the senators. As was mentioned, several of them are running for office. They'll get the what they need out of it to say we were taking on the person who took on Trump. And I imagine most of what I saw, at least, of DA Willis's responses will play very well with her base. I don't know that much of substance came out of this at all.
Right.
Deborah, how about the district attorney? How did she fare in all of this? I mean, This controversy, if you want to call it that, did not hurt her reelection chances. She's got another 3 years left in office until she has to run again. What do you think is the result for Fani Willis?
Well, there was a lot of political theater happening, I think, on all sides. But to me, Fani Willis came across as someone who is standing up for herself, who is standing up for the rule of law, and who is standing up for her community. So I think she is going to go right back to work doing just that, fighting on behalf of her constituents.
Buzz, how about the Republican lawmakers who were sitting on this panel and questioning her? Again, we have a DA who was very popular in her county and who won re-election. She might be around longer than some of those state lawmakers are around. So what about the legislators?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think they got what they needed. So many people today want their elected officials, their representatives, district attorneys, whatever, to fight. And less important is, do they win? Do they succeed? Do they accomplish? And that's disappointing. I think they'll get plenty of that. They'll get the opportunity. If there's any reforms that come out of that, I'll be interested to see what those look like. But I think, to me, one of the problems, if I might add, for DA Willis is this was an enormous, high-profile case. It got national attention. It collapsed of its own weight because of her behavior. Even before the relationship with Mr. Wade came to light, she was removed from the investigation into Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones because she was raising money for Burt Jones' Democratic opponent. So I would like to see DA Willis look back on, learn some lessons from that and say, you know what, we don't need to go all in on these sorts of things. Let's get done what we can get done, because she also had the YSL case, was an enormous RICO case which collapsed with hardly anybody even getting a slap on the wrist. So I hope she reflects and say, let me focus on the things that my job entails, which is putting bad people behind bars that reduce crime in her community.
Right. And Buzz, you mentioned reforms. And so, Deborah, that's kind of the name of the game for these senators, is they were supposed to be listening and trying to find ways to reform the law. They can't discipline Fani Willis in any way. They can just report back. And as Buzz, you know, kind of present what they've learned to the legislature. And so, did you hear the need for any reforms? And to that point, do you think legislators should even have the ability to dictate what goes on in the office of constitutionally elected officers?
Well, it's concerning, and we've already seen here in Georgia laws passed to provide some oversight. Those commissions are tied up in litigation, partially because prosecutors are meant to have broad discretion as to how they prioritize cases and fight on behalf of justice in their communities. It's not really just about conviction. So that separation of powers is really important, and I'm concerned about the fact that we are encroaching on the prosecutorial independence.
Well, we appreciate both of you. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of the 2020 election, Fulton County's handling of it is under scrutiny as we speak. The Department of Justice sued the county just last week, accusing leaders of failing to turn over certain documents. And so I asked Fulton County Commission Chairman Robb Pitts about the lawsuit, what the dismissal of the election indictment means for Fulton County taxpayers, and about his re-election bid when we sat down on the record. Fulton County was recently sued by the Department of Justice over the 2020 election. They want ballots, they want documents, voter information as well tied to that election. Do you think that the county should provide the federal government with this information, or do you think it's something worth fighting?
Well, I'll tell you what, if you can help me understand what the fascination is in Washington with the president and his crowd about the 2020 election, I will be forever indebted to you and this station. They've been audited, they've been reviewed, they've been looked at from A to Z. In every case, we get a clean bill of health.
That case against Donald Trump and many of the folks that you mentioned was just dropped last month. What was your reaction to the dropping of the case?
Well, I don't second guess what the district attorney did or does. She had her reasons for doing what she did. We provided her with the resources. But after a while, though, you sort of sense that it was going nowhere. They meaning President Trump and the other defendants, have I think 45 days from the start date to provide the Judge McAfee with their expenses. The clock is ticking on that. When he gets all of their invoices in for their legal expenses, and the Judge McAfee, then he is charged with deciding which of those fees are reasonable. When he makes that decision, then I guess he'll present them to us, and we will have to make a decision as to what we're going to do from a legal point of view, whether you're going to pay those fees or not.
Well, it sounds like you're prepared for this to get a little legally messy. I mean, estimates say that it could be around $10 million, $5 million for Trump's fees alone.
I mean, just back of the envelope kind of calculation, it'll be, you know, 10 million plus easily. But what the law says is that any legal expenses would be paid out of the district attorney's operating budget, and we provide the operating budget to her. The other complicating factor here is that the county provides some of her salary and the state provides some of her salary. So there are a lot of unknown questions. It's a brand new law, and there are a lot of things that will have to be decided before we have to make a decision as to whether or not we're going to pay anything at all, or how much we're going to pay in terms of the legal fees of the president and the other defendants.
You've been leading the county commission now for just about a decade,
Mm-hmm.
and two of your commissioners, Dana Barrett and Marvin Arrington, have said that they're going to challenge you next year to be at the helm of the commission. What do you think that says about what they think of the job you're doing, and do you think that it's a challenge you can overcome?
I'm not sure what they're doing. I've heard that. They've not said anything directly to me, but you know, they're free to do whatever they choose to do. Arrington is like family to me. His dad and I were best of friends. His dad must be turning over in his grave knowing that Marvin Jr. is talking about running against me. The other one, she just got there. What she's up to, I have no idea.
Well, one of the reasons that they cited for wanting to run against you was the jail and everything that's happened there. It's, you know, I think everyone in the county can agree it's dangerous, it's falling apart, it's understaffed. You wanted to put just a little over $1 billion towards building a brand new facility. Is that still, you think, the best option for the county here and for inmates, for staff at the jail?
So there was just a school of thought that let's build a bigger jail. What problem are you trying to solve if you build a bigger jail? It doesn't make sense to me to build a bigger jail. And the cost of a new jail as proposed was several $1 billion, $2+ billion. We have other needs in the county rather than building a country club jail for people who are in jail. But what we've come up with is a plan to renovate, major renovations of the existing jail, and at the same time building an auxiliary facility that will be used to treat those with mental issues and substance abuse issues. And that really accounts for about somewhere 50, 60, 70% of the people in our jail fall into those two categories. We have the federal monitor now who is working with us. Federal monitor has said not one word about building a new jail.
You're talking about the consent decree.
That's correct.
That the jail is under.
That's correct.
Things are going well with that.
They're going well. We're going well. You may hear, you know, people try to make political hay out of the jail because it's been in the news and because, you know, several years ago, the number of deaths that occurred there. Recently, there was a fire. We're still looking into that. So things happen in a jail. Our jail, I mean, it's a jail. It's not a country club.
That's just part of my conversation with Chairman Robb Pitts. You can watch my full interview right now on Atlanta News First YouTube channel.
And a congressional push to keep your health insurance bill from skyrocketing in the new year falls flat. But President Trump says the U.S. economy is heading in the right direction. Welcome back. Just a few weeks left until the start of the new legislative session here in Georgia, but voters in Fulton and Cobb counties have just made their final decision for who they want to represent them under the Gold Dome. Come January, Jaha Howard will represent District 35 in the Georgia Senate. The dentist and former Cobb County Board of Education member narrowly defeated former state representative Roger Bruce on Tuesday. I asked the senator-elect what his top priority will be when the new session begins.
Affordability, and we have to make sure we take that very seriously. We're talking about housing, whether it's your rent, whether it's your mortgage, when it comes to our groceries, when it comes to our energy costs. Let's take these things seriously and have that nuanced conversations on all the different factors that are affecting affordability.
And I have a feeling we're going to be hearing that word affordability quite a bit over the next year. And that's because cost of living concerns are front and center for families across Georgia right now.
It's the name of the game for everybody and across the country as well. But President Trump says the U.S. economy is on the right track. During a primetime address from the White House, the president explained his administration inherited what he called a, quote, mess when he took office almost a year ago. But President Trump said the nation is poised for an economic boom because of the policies that he's implemented since taking office, including his tariff policy. The revenue from those duties, the president says, will let the U.S. reward U.S. troops with what he's calling warrior dividends.
So warrior dividend, in honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way.
The address came on the same day 4 GOP lawmakers crossed party lines to back a Democratic effort to extend pandemic-era Obamacare subsidies. It means Democrats now have enough signatures to force a vote on the tax credits, something Republican leadership did not want to happen. Millions of Americans have relied on those subsidies to pay for their health insurance, but Republicans say the payments are too expensive and can lead to fraud. The subsidies are set to expire at the end of this year, but the vote won't happen until sometime in January. And we're back with our panel. So, Deborah, we should remind people it was Democrats who, first of all, wrote Obamacare and who also wrote the bill that set those subsidies to expire at the end of this year. Isn't it disingenuous for them to be blaming Republicans if and when these subsidies go away?
Well, sunsetting is common in U.S. lawmaking. That is when there is an expiration date, either for cost savings or because of budget rules. Sometimes it's because there's an urgency to get the legislation passed, and you know that at some point you will reach this fiscal cliff that we are at right now. But what's interesting is that when you do give the public a benefit, it is that much harder to take it away. And that is where we are at this moment.
Yeah, and Buzz, listen, the midterms are coming up. They still are a while away, but never too early to start thinking about them. We're starting to see Republicans budge on this a little bit, at least in Congress. Is this something that could hurt the ones that don't show a willingness to budge come midterm time?
It could, but I think that they're missing the point here. There are tremendous cliffs in this Medicaid program, as there are in much of our social safety net. This is something that we work on professionally, at Georgia Center for Opportunity, trying to address these cliffs. When people earn a certain amount of money, once they earn up to a certain amount, if they earn a little bit more, their Medicaid, like all other programs, it just drops off a cliff. It doesn't taper down as they earn more money. None of these things that we're talking about address that. None of these things that address the continued rising cost of health care and of health care insurance that all Americans are facing now. They're growing faster. Congress is not even dealing with that issue. They're just dealing with these kind of patchwork, these Band-Aids. So there was an Obamacare subsidy. Now they've stacked another subsidy on top of that. The national debt is exploding. We need a serious debate on this issue and some serious proposals brought forth. We have some ideas, but Congress needs to take these things up.
Yeah, start thinking long term. And so in the interest of equal opportunity, to Rick's point, this was the Democrats' program. Could this actually hurt them in the midterms if people aren't getting the health care that they need and they're looking to Democrats who are the ones who crafted this program?
I don't think so. Democrats are seen as being responsible for something that voters really love, and they are extremely angry and frustrated that these subsidies have not been extended. In fact, an AJC poll recently said that 3/4 of Georgians want these extended, and we are seeing that voters are talking about 200, 300, 400% increases in their premiums if we do not extend the ACA subsidies. So they are frustrated, and they're absolutely going to be thinking that this is a top issue going into the midterms, and Republicans right now are standing in the way of affordable health care.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both. We appreciate your time talking about all this today. When we come back, holiday traditions are taking over our nation's capital. We're going to lighten it up a little and show you how Georgia is getting involved next on The Record. Well, it's Christmas time, and trees representing every state are lighting our nation's capital.
That's right. Washington correspondent Emma Wolfhurst has more now on Georgia's entry for this annual tradition.
Students across the country are adding to the holiday spirit by sending ornaments for these state trees. It's part of a display called America Celebrates. Students at Metter Elementary School created ornaments to hang on Georgia's tree. These ornaments channel the children's creativity and talents, showcasing the state's history and culture. The 59 trees line the pathway of peace, standing in the shadow of the national Christmas tree behind the White House. The tradition of the National Christmas Tree was started by Calvin Coolidge more than 100 years ago. And in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower added a twist, incorporating these additional trees. They now represent all the U.S. states and territories, as well as the Interior Department's Bureau of Indian Education Schools and the Defense Department Education Activity.
I think the state trees are really about unity. It's really about showing how every one of our states are important to this country and how special each state is and how different each state is, and we need to celebrate that.
The National Park Foundation, which organizes the display, says these 59 trees are donated from 2 different farms in North Carolina. In Washington, Emma Wolfhorst.
And that's our show. Thanks so much to our panel, Buzz Brockway and Deborah Shigley.
And thank you for watching. Have a happy holiday.